Hello and welcome. My name is Cindy Willems, and I am happy that you can all join me here today. Um, First of all, I just would like to thank the Big Carrot for helping to organize this. And again, I'd like to thank you for joining me for this little virtual webinar. The goal of this virtual webinar is to talk about some of the foods that we commonly eat and how those foods can support us during this spring season. I'm going to talk a little bit about the foods that can influence us and how they can make a condition either worse or better. And hopefully I'm going to inspire you to want to cook some of these amazing crops that are available during the spring season. Cook them in your next meals. So we'll save some questions to the end, and I hope you enjoy. So I'll tell you a little bit about me. I am a registered holistic nutritionist. I am a registered acupuncturist and a certified Pilates instructor. I've been in the health and wellness business for about 15 years now. And I have a little studio in the heart of the Danforth. I am not a medical doctor. I am not a scientist. I am a health educator. And I draw my information from both the Western and Eastern health perspectives. And we'll talk about that today. Today, we're going to focus on one particular organ. And this organ is at its peak during this spring season. So I'm going to talk about how this organ can influence our health and wellness and how we can take care of this organ. So spring is a time that brings about change. The weather's getting warmer, you know, we're shedding our jackets, we're shedding our clothing. We're actually going to shed a little bit of winter weight, which is absolutely normal. Our meals are going to start to shift. So we want to start to lighten up our meals. So where before we might be into more comfort, heavier foods, stews and soups, crock pot meals, we can get a little bit lighter in the cooking process. So a little bit of a shorter time for the cooking and a little bit lighter so that there's a little bit of crunch to your vegetables. Again, not completely raw, but just a little crunch. So you might be looking at sauteing, steaming, poaching, or blanching. So those are the type of methods of cooking that are very supportive during the spring season. So as plants grow and mature around us, we can see that there's a certain life force to that. And the big prominent color that is out there right now is green. So we're going to talk about how green can influence our health and wellness. So I'm going to start from the lens of traditional Chinese medicine, and I'm going to talk about food in spring, and again, how that influences us in our health and wellness during this time of year. The one organ that specifically is at its peak during this time is the liver organ. So again, from a TCM or traditional Chinese medicine, the liver organ has its peak energy during this time of year. And so it's important for our overall health and wellness. It's important for us to support the energy and vitality of this organ right now because it's at its peak. So spring is seen as a time of cleansing, renewing, growth, upward, expansive movement, letting go of the old to bring in the new. And a famous Chinese saying says, spring gives birth, summer grows, autumn harvests, and winter stores. So it's important for us to be attuned to the seasons as they start to shift and change. So I'm going to now go to a screen share. So spring is associated with our liver organ. Well, why is this important? It is important because it helps everything flow smoothly. Our liver energy helps everything flow smoothly throughout the body. It's going to help with our blood flow and our body fluids, nutrients, and just any energy that needs to move to and fro throughout our body. It's going to support all the fluid and energy and nutrients that all of our organs need, our skin, our muscles, our bones, all of that. The liver energy supports our physical movement, our body's movement. So the Chinese medicine says that it governs our tendons and sinews, and we need liver qi to help us move through space with ease and free of pain. So often when we'll talk about a little bit later is when we get a little bit dry, or there's a little bit of stagnation in that liver energy, we get tight and stiff. And you'll see how that plays out as we talk a little bit more about that kind of liver and its components. It supports our eyesight. It stores blood and maintains all those substances within the body, which we talked about, the movement of all those substances. It regulates our emotions. So when there's a disharmony in that liver energy, we may be quick to anger, irritability, depression. So those are some kind of associated symptoms that come about when that liver organ is just a little bit out of balance. And then there are others, but those are the kind of the big ones that come up. We need good liver flow to support our digestive system. It is responsible for helping to support the digestion's ability to what we call transform foods into those valuable nutrients, but also transport all those nutrients throughout the body to, again, all the places that need those nutrients. It is also responsible, that digestive system, for all of the physiological processes that happen in the body, which includes our immune system. The liver energy, which is something I really love too, it supports our ability to plan, strategize, and actually follow through with activities in our life, which is quite interesting. All right, let's go to the next one. Let's see. All right. The liver is associated with the element of wood. So again, we're talking from Chinese medicine perspective. So walking in nature can be very nourishing for the liver. Drinking fluids, water, tea, eating moistening foods, which we just talked about earlier, which is blanching, steaming, poach. This also helps to nourish our liver energy. So imagine that if liver is associated to wood, like plants, plants need water. And the water is what helps them grow and mature. So we need water, but not just drinking water. We need water and other things as well. So water is very important. Fluids are very important for us so we don't dry out and get all stiff. That's that stiffness that can happen as well, the stiff and tight. The flavor of sour flavor is associated to the liver organ in Chinese medicine, and it helps support the movement of our liver qi. So a little goes a long way. We don't need a lot of sour foods. We don't want a lot of sour foods in our diet, but having just a little bit, maybe some lemon or lime in a drink or on a meal, enjoying a plum, so some olives, some pomegranate when they start to come into season, some grapes, fermented food, and we're going to talk a tiny bit about that at the end. So your sauerkrauts, miso, kombucha, that all supports digestion as well as the movement of that liver qi. And a little bit of vinegar you can put into your sour component in a dressing or a marinade if you have that. In TCM, the color of green, there's our green. The color of green is associated with the liver organ. So green vegetables essentially can potentially help to nourish the body. So, you're going to look at tons of green vegetables, and including the sprouts. Sprouts are full of vitality and energy. They're really easy to digest, and they're high in fiber. So they're generally easy. If you don't want to grow them yourselves, you can generally buy them from your local markets out there, but eating them when they're young is really good because they're full of vital energy. So adding a little bit of sprouts to a meal would be a really good thing right now too, again, just to support you during this spring season. So that is just a very general, but hopefully a broad view of energy and how our food during this time and liver is connected. We're going to go to the next slide, which is going to talk about, oh, before I get to the next slide, I'm going to give you another saying, which is kind of nice. Another famous Chinese saying is, the 3 months of spring, they denote breaking open the old to create the new. Heaven and earth together generate life, and the 10,000 things begin to flourish. So that is spring through a TCM lens. I'm going to look at the liver from a Western science perspective. I'm not going to get too sciencey, but I am going to talk a little bit about the importance of this liver organ from a science perspective on our health and wellness. So as you can see here, the first thing is the liver organ breaks down, transforms, and eliminates toxins. And this is normal. This is what it should be doing. We have toxins that are byproducts from our food. We have medication that has toxins that we need to get rid of. We environmentally, we might we're going to be exposed to toxins every day. Even normal physiological processes have a byproduct that the body has to get rid of, and the liver organ, that is one of its main jobs, is to break all of this down and then to help eliminate it after. The liver organ helps to cleanse our blood, and it helps to metabolize everything that goes into as well as onto our body. It helps to manufacture essential protein, which we need for, your hair, your muscles, your bones. We need protein for everything. It regulates hormones, cholesterol, vitamins, and minerals. And finally, it produces bile. It's one of its big major jobs, which helps in our digestion itself. So we need bile to help transform all the food, break it down so that the body can then uptake the nutrients and then use it for later on. So bile is a big one for sure. So research has shown that the liver has a couple of different phases that it goes through to detoxify or transform all of this. And they call it phase 1 and 2. It's pretty simple. So they call it phase 1 and 2. And I'm not going to go into the science of phase 1 and 2, but I am going to talk about some of the foods that support phase 1 and 2 for detoxification. And you'll see a nice crossover, which is kind of really nice. This is what I love about putting East and West together, is there's a nice crossover of the foods from a Western and Eastern perspective that are eaten. All right. So the cruciferous vegetables, they're one of the big ones. They support the phases of liver detoxification. So here is a group, I've given you a group of the major cruciferous vegetables: broccoli, asparagus, cauliflower, kale, cabbage, turnip, rutabaga, which I'm still to try and cook, bok choy, Brussels sprouts, and collard greens. So as you notice, there's a lot of green in that. So a lot of green vegetables from an Eastern perspective with these cruciferous vegetables are also going to support us from a Western perspective. It's going to supply lots of what they call phytonutrients, or nutrients from plants. It's going to give us lots of fiber, full of antioxidants, vitamins, and nutrients. So super important right now. It has been shown that it can support our liver's ability to eliminate toxins, metabolize those hormones that we talked about before, and it will get rid of it through our urine and our stool. So lots of really great green vegetables and others that are available. And look at what is growing right now, like asparagus is growing right now. Brussels sprouts will start to grow a little bit later. Kale and lettuces, they're all going to be starting to grow right now as well. So a great opportunity to start to enjoy those right now. Okay. So there are other foods that can help support us during these 2 phases of detoxification. So outside of the cruciferous, we're going to talk about just a little bit about these foods here. So crops such as radishes, arugula, watercress, spinach, and dandelion leaf. So this is from a scientific perspective that has been shown. These foods have been shown to actually help phase 1, phase 2 detoxification. So again, look at all the green vegetables that are available to eat. And, you know, spinach, dandelion, watercress, arugula, I think that those all start to grow now too. So that's available for us. So all that green is fantastic. Spices, we've got turmeric, rosemary, and thyme. We've got great berries. Again, we always like the dark berries because they're not only great for the energy of the liver, but also they're very blood nourishing too, which is great for all of us, especially us ladies. Dark berries, raspberries, blueberries. We've got wonderful fruits, figs, lemons, grapefruit, grapes, oranges, apples, and look at, again, the crossover from the list that was earlier with the TCM list. And then in this group, we've got the allium group. So the onions, the garlic, chives, leeks, scallions, and those are all starting to grow right now. So they're great options to add in. I would recommend for most people, they digest these easier if they're cooked. And again, you don't need a lot, but just maybe a little bit in your meal would be great. I do want to just point out just one little word of caution for cruciferous vegetables. I love cruciferous vegetables. They're super important for our diet. They offer so much stuff, but we want to make sure that we don't overindulge in cruciferous vegetables, especially if you have your digestion is just a little bit poor. It's not as good as it maybe used to be a long time ago. If we eat a lot of cruciferous vegetables, we actually can get a little bit gassy and bloaty. So I would just recommend, if that's the case, maybe, you know, take out a little bit of those cruciferous vegetables and replace it with some of these other crops, which would be good. Also, those who have a thyroid condition, they also think that we should avoid too much cruciferous vegetables. I mean, like an excess amount of cruciferous vegetables, because it can impede in that iodine uptake. But other than that, you know, eat all of these vegetables along with other vegetables. So we always want to have a nice balance, a nice collection of different things that offer different nutrients, vitamins, and minerals. So I generally try to include, you know, a couple of these in at least 1 to 2 meals a day, minimum. If you can, you know, if you can do more, awesome. But if you can do 1 meal a day with a few of these foods in it, I think that you'll find a lot of you'll get a lot out of that. So it will be very, very good. Now, I want to talk just a little bit about digestion in our health and wellness and other ways to support it, because we can eat all of this amazing nutritious foods, and sure, that might make us feel okay and pretty good for a bit, but it may not be supporting all of the body. And we want to support the body from a more holistic lens. So I like to think about supporting our whole body health. So looking at supporting our whole body health. So here's a couple of things that you're going to think about during the spring season that is going to help you. So eating regularly. Our body systems love regularity. If we eat generally at the same time or close to it, it's going to help the digestive and elimination system because it gets used to that regularity. So it likes the rhythm of how it has to work. You know, if it changes an odd time here and there, that's fine. But generally, it likes to wake up, eat at a certain time, maybe have a bowel movement at a certain time, eat again. So it likes the rhythm of that through the day. So regular eating is really important for health and wellness. Now, you can still eat a little bit lighter in the evening and a little bit heavier in the daytime. That also is generally kind of better for most people and helps people generally sleep better as well. Eating for your constitution. So this goes back to how if you eat too much of one thing, how that can affect you in a good way or a bad way. So if you are a cold person, if you're someone that always needs to have an extra blanket, an extra sweater, always feeling cold, but then you're also eating raw vegetables, food that are cold from the fridge, a little bit of ice cream or cold drinks, that's all going to exacerbate the cold. So it's going to keep making you feel cold. So you want to make sure that you kind of try to go on the other spectrum of that and introduce some warm. It doesn't have to be hot, but some warming foods to your diet. So warming your meals up, having more warm cooked foods, adding a little bit of spices in there, not chili spices, but maybe some cinnamon in there, a little bit of black pepper that will just help warm up the dish just a little bit if you are someone that's always feeling cold. Then on the other side, if you're someone that's always feeling hot, but you're someone that also eats a lot of spicy, hot food, then that's probably not the best for you as well. So you want to look at eating something that's going to support that. So it's going to support you, to bring you back to balance. So the hot constitution should eat a little bit of more cooling foods. That doesn't mean raw foods specifically. It just may be cooling watery foods, celery, cucumbers, those are really good cooling watery foods, grapes, that just kind of help balance things out and bring you back to that kind of where we should be in that normal setting, not too hot, not too cold. Yeah, so those are even the drying foods. We talked about how our sinews are like the wood element out there. So having enough fluids in your day, and eating moistening foods in the way of how we cook it too, blanch, steam, poach, that's going to impart moisture into the body, and it's going to help us move without that stiffness every day. All right, we're going to eat a variety of color and flavor. So color, I think we've all talked about it for years and years. You should have a nice variety of color on your plate, but let's put maybe a little bit more green color this spring season. So we'll focus on that being a little bit more of it on the plate than maybe you might normally do. And then we're going to look at flavor. Well, we talked about sour being one of the flavors in the Chinese medicine. There's 5 flavors out there that support all of our systems that we have in the body that keep us healthy and well. And those 5 flavors are sweet, bitter, salty, pungent, and sour. So if we have a little bit of everything, it really helps impart the energy of all of those organ systems. So it's going to help nourish everything. So we don't want to have too much sweet or too much bitter or too much pungent. We don't want to have too much of one thing, but a little bit of all of that is going to, it's going to not only impart more nourishment, but it's going to be so much more satisfying to your taste buds when you have all of those flavors in there as well. Right now, I am into the wilted kale salad. I saw it on a cooking show because I'm watching way too many cooking shows. So after I wash my kale, I put it in some hot water for a couple of seconds, maybe like 10 seconds, 20 seconds, just till it wilts a bit. And then I take it out and I run that under cold water, drain it, fluff it up, and it's so fantastic as a salad. Put whatever dressing you want to have, but it's a bit wilted, so it's a bit broken down, which is it's actually a little bit better for our digestive system, because now our digestive system doesn't have to work so hard to break it down. So that cellular wall has broken down a little bit, and it's a little bit easier for us to digest. And I just learned something, which I'm starting to do. If you do boil your vegetables, like lightly steam it, and you have that water that has a little bit of color, even that kale water, I don't dump it now anymore. I actually put it aside in a bottle and I water my plants with it. My plants inside and my plants outside, because that's full of lots of nourishing nutrients. So why throw it down the sink? Might as well keep everything else growing too in your house. So that was a really good, a good thing to learn. I really like that. Okay, so good eating habits. So we're going to look at supporting digestion in a few ways. Smaller meals, if eating big meals just leaves you feeling gassy and bloated, just go down to eating smaller meals more often in your day. Often that's easier for someone with a bit of a compromised digestive system. Chewing your food well. And again, I'm sure you've heard of it. We talk about it for years and years, but chewing is that mechanical process that happens in the mouth, but it signals other things to happen down below in terms of the digestion. So you chew here, but it tells the stomach, okay, get ready. We're gonna receive food. We gotta make all that hydrochloric acid and all the enzymes to break down the food. So let's get it all pumped up and ready. And it also gets the intestines doing its peristalsis job. So it gets it doing this kind of action, right? So that when we eat, the body's ready to deal with that food. It's not going to sit there, and it's going to break down and then move through the intestines all the way down. So chewing is a really important process of the digestive system that sometimes I forget to do, especially if I'm eating something and I'm really hungry. Taking our time to eat. So there is a term that's called, that they say is rest and digest. That's actually a Western medicine term that they use. The digestive system needs to work on a very calm nervous system. So rest and digest is a very important thing to remember, because if we're eating when we're rushed, when we're stressed, when we're go, then our body's not going to be breaking down this food. It's going to sit in our stomach and it's going to wait until you are in a more chilled state, and then it's going to work on digesting it. And that's not really good, because then things are waiting there, they're kind of fermenting. That's when generally we get a lot more gas and bloating, is when we've just kind of thrown all this food in there, and then we've gone on to run to the next thing, and then we haven't given our digestive system time to actually do its work. So not rushing is a really important thing. Eating in a calm environment, free of stress and free of emotional stress as well, because that is also a big one for food and how we relate to food. So taking our time to eat. I guarantee you, if you chew your food well and you take your time to eat your food, you will taste and enjoy your food more. One of the things that I've done to help myself slow down is I'm now eating with smaller utensils, and often I will eat with smaller plates as well, so that I'm not inhaling my food quickly. Oftentimes I'll eat something, put the fork down, allow myself to chew a little bit, get back to the fork. If I'm holding my fork, it means I'm probably like getting ready to just eat and eat and eat. But if I put my fork down in between my mouthfuls for a second, then I know I'm eating a little bit, or chewing my food a little bit better than if I'm holding my fork. So that's just a little kind of strategy that I use for sure. Okay, everything in moderation. Just like anything, we want to make sure that food is a supportive and nurturing habit, but we're eating it in moderation. So not too much hot, not too much cold, not too much size-wise, even not too little too, because sometimes you can eat too little. So making sure that you you eat again regularly, so the body gets used to being able to get the glucose that it needs to function and think and do. If it's starving, then it's just going to eat whatever is in front of it, the first thing that it sees that is sugar-based, guaranteed. So so eating in moderation is always a good one to think about. All right, to add on to this, we've got prebiotic and probiotic foods. I'm sure you guys have all heard of it. Prebiotic foods, it's just a type of fiber found in these particular foods, this food group right here, that's digested in the bacteria of the gut. So these foods are going to provide nutrients for the bacteria and help support not only the health of the digestive system, but ultimately the digestive system supports our immune system and that immune function. So we're going to support all of that moving forward. So Jerusalem artichoke, chicory root, dandelion greens. Again, we said that earlier. Here's a bit of this crossover, right? Greens, garlic, onion, leek, asparagus, barley, oats, apples, yacon and jicama root. Those are some really great prebiotics. Just add a little bit into a meal and it would be fantastic. Then you can add a little bit of probiotics. So probiotics foods, generally, this is more of a live bacteria. So it's going to add really good beneficial bacteria for the bacteria that's in there to feed upon and enjoy and grow and proliferate. So foods such as sauerkraut, kimchi, kombucha, kefir, non-pasteurized pickles or non-pasteurized pickled vegetables, fantastic. I started eating sauerkraut only about maybe 10 years ago. And when I first started, because I knew it was good for me. So when I first started eating sauerkraut, and you want to get the non-pasteurized, not any, it should never have vinegar or sugar in it. So the non-pasteurized version, when I started eating it, I could only eat, when I eat a little bit, oh, I didn't like the taste of it. But I used to eat just a little bit at a time here and there, and my palate got used to it. And now I can eat loads of probiotics, of the sauerkraut, which I love. So I have like a nice chunk of it with, you know, 1 or 2 meals a week. I don't eat it every day, but hey, you can eat a little bit of it every day for sure. And finally, gentle exercise daily, walking in the woods, meditation, always great, calming the emotions. We talked about that liver energy and how it's tied to emotions. So, you know, it doesn't have to be, you know, a lockdown for 1 hour to do, you know, to be Zen, but 5 minutes of breathing, calming the mind, you know, thinking of positive thoughts and doing a little bit of just self-care, that little bit of meditation can be helpful at this time of year. And finally, good sleeping habits. That's also important because ultimately, if we're not sleeping, that's going to be hard too. That's not going to help support all the other systems that have to function well within our body and keep us happy and healthy and you know, vital as we get older. So that is it for today. I hope that I have inspired you. I'm going to stop screen sharing now. I hope that I have inspired you to move forward and go and get some of these vegetables and crops and just get out and get get cooking. I thank you so much for joining me.